Hi, in this video I am going to be talking about US education process, and I am going to be talking about a very critical step that one has to take once a student starts getting admission offers from the universities he or she has applied to. Once you start getting the admission offer, the next biggest fight is getting a visa slot. Getting a visa slot is much more challenging than even booking a Tatkal ticket in an Indian railway portal. There's a lot of element of luck, too few slots, too many people chasing the slot, and the complication increases because you possibly want the slot in your preferred destination where you have been told that the chances of visa approval is much higher. So what I'm going to be doing in this session is to talk about the whole process of blocking the visa slot, and I will be going step by step in talking about what you need to do once you start getting the offers so that you are able to get yourself a slot, and along the way try to get some additional scholarship. My name is Mohammed Abdullah and I have been guiding students towards international education since 2009. I am also the CEO of Condura, which is a leading institution in the state of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. We are based both in Visakhapatnam and in Hyderabad. So let me now go step by step. I am going to be talking about various scenarios because you might fall in one of the three. Scenario number one, you have got admission in the college of your preference. Scenario number two, you are still awaiting the results and you do not have any admission so far. And scenario number three, which is where many of you probably will fall, where you have started receiving admits, you have a couple of admits, but you are still awaiting the admission in the college of your preference. So during this time, what exactly should you do so that you are able to meet your immediate goal, which is a very critical goal, as I said, of getting yourself a visa slot? Let's go step by step. In the scenario one, let's assume the fact that you are among those who has been able to get the admission in the college of your choice. Let us say you are an aspirant for MS in Computer Science in New York University, and it so happens that you have received an admit. So what is that you need to do? The first and the foremost step that you need to rush into is to get what is known as the I-20. I-20 is a very critical document, the criticality of which comes from the fact that without I-20, you cannot book a visa slot. I-20 as a document becomes also very important if you are looking at getting yourself an education loan sanctioned, because financial institutions will ask for the I-20 document for them to sanction your education loan. So how do I go about getting the I-20? What are the rules which are there? Once the college has given you the admission, then for it to issue the I-20, it has to necessarily collect a financial document from you. The financial document, as per the policy of the US government, should be able to highlight the fact that the student can afford education for at least 9 months, which means you have to show to the college that you have the funds sufficient to cover the first year education fee and the living expenses. Now when I say first year, it typically is 2 semesters stretching over 9 months because you have a break in the middle. But typically in I-20 you will find either 9 months mentioned or 12 months mentioned. So the most important thing that you need to now rush towards is to send to the college the proof that you have sufficient funds to cover what is said to be the I-20 amount. Again, I-20 amount talks about two costing elements. One, the academic fees for the 2 semesters, and two, the living expenses. Let's talk about New York University. Now, MS in computer science at New York University requires you to show an I-20 amount of about $76,000, which means as a whole process, you are supposed to get a letter saying that you have funds sufficient, which is a minimum of $76,000. You need to then send this to the college. College will then issue you the I-20 before you can then take the next step towards blocking yourself a visa slot and to apply for the education loan. Now, what happens? Let's look at 3 cases here. 3 friends, Alex, Brenda, and Cecilia. 3 of them applied for MS in computer science at New York University, and guess what? All the 3 fantastic, and all the 3 get an admit. Now let's look at what happens in these 3 scenarios. Alex comes from a rich family. He has sufficient funds in the bank. It could include saving account. It could also include fixed deposits for that matter. So he goes to the bank and gets a letter. The letter basically highlights the fact that he or his sponsors have $76,000 or more of funds readily available. Now he can get that letter in the letterhead of the bank, attested of course by the bank. Then he can send that to the New York University, which will then issue him the I-20. Let's look at Brenda. She does not come from a rich family. She depends on education loan. But yes, she has some amount of funds. Let us say she has about $10,000 of funds in her bank. But the requirement is much more, because if you are giving NYU, the New York University, a letter claiming that you have funds lesser than the $76,000 required, you will not be issued I-20. Now $10,000 does not cover that. She needs more. Unfortunately, till you get the I-20, you are not getting the education loan. She is going to rely on the education loan. So it's a classic case of chicken and egg problem, where for I-20 you need a financial document, and for you to get the education loan, you need the I-20. So what does Brenda do? One of the strategies that she can do is she takes short-term loan. There are quite a few agents who are there who will offer that short-term loan. So she can approach an agent, ask for $76,000 less the $10,000 she already possesses. So $66,000 she takes from the agent. That amount is deposited in the bank of either hers or her sponsors, and then she takes 2 letters. One, the $10,000 she already possesses, and the second, the $66,000 she has taken from the agent but is in the name of hers or her sponsors. But the point is, you can take multiple bank statements. So she takes the loan from the agent, pays the agent the commission, but then she is successful in taking the document from the bank which claims the fact that she has $76,000 in her name. Remember, it can be also in the name of her sponsors, and then she sends these documents to the college, and guess what? NYU then issues the I-20. Now, this is a very common mechanism used by quite a few Indian students, because majority of them do not have funds sufficient in their bank account, and they, yes, rely on education funds. But this incurs additional expense in terms of you paying to the agent the commission. There's a third scenario, which is what Cecilia probably will fit in. Fortunately, this is something that has come up in a very recent past, where the banks, now appreciative of this issue, have come out with a middle document. So they don't sanction the loan, because remember, sanction of the loan requires them to have the I-20. But they understand the fact that for I-20 you need a financial document. So they give what is known as a loan acceptance letter. So what Cecilia does is that she goes to a bank, shows the fact that she has a letter of invitation to join the college, which is what is the admit letter. The bank quickly scrutinizes the reputation of the college, the credibility of the person asking for the loan, Cecilia, her family, and then says, all right, there's a very good chance I'll sanction the loan, but yes, I do need I-20 for the sanction, but meanwhile, I'll give you what is known as the loan acceptance letter. The loan acceptance letter basically says that the bank is willing to offer the loan to Cecilia for her higher education. Now, this is a new trend. Not many banks offer it, but banks have started looking at it positively, which is a good news because Cecilia therefore need not pay the commission like Brenda did. Now, Cecilia can get this letter, which is then sent to New York University, and guess what New York University then does? It issues the I-20. So you as an individual might fall in Alex's profile, Brinda's profile, Cecilia's profile. You might therefore take different routes, but all the routes lead to one very important document, the I-20. Now, once you get the I-20, you do many things simultaneously. One, of course, you immediately start looking for a visa slot. Now, visa slot is not very easy. You have to go on attempting it. Sometimes they open in bulk, but quite often they open off and on. There again, as I said, there are certain locations which are more considered to be positive for the visa approval. You probably might prefer those. You want slot in those. So you book that slot using the I-20 that you have. The second thing, of course, is you take that I-20, and if you come in the category where you are going to depend on the education loan, you continue the process of education loan. Now that you have I-20, banks will sanction if they find the college that you are going to go for, the program that you are going to go for, credible enough. I emphasize the importance of program too, because sometimes few banks will not necessarily issue the education loan for all the programs. Computer science is a favorite for the banks because they believe the fact that job prospects are there, therefore the risk is lesser. But if you are going, let us say, for film making, there are many banks which will not extend the education loan. So that is something that you need to take care of. That is something that I will be covering in one more session of mine. Now, before I go forward, I'm going to be recommending you to follow our channel. I make it a point to regularly update the channel with videos which talk about the changes that are happening around. Things have been quite chaotic across the world. Countries like USA, Canada, Australia, Ireland, UK, Singapore, Dubai, many others too. They have been changing their policies, making it tougher for Indian students to join colleges as well as get visas subsequently. So following my channel will help you keep abreast of all these developments and improve your chances of making your dream a reality. So far I have been talking about I-20, but there is one more element which I will strongly recommend you to do once you have selected the college. What you need to do is write to them again. Now, it's likely that you have been given partial scholarship. It's likely that you have not been offered scholarship. Quite often, once the colleges know that you are seriously contemplating joining the college or you are ready to make a commitment, they do open their purses wider. I've had cases of students writing to the college, something that I encourage, explaining why they need financial assistance. Now, colleges might or might not, but quite often they do give some additional scholarship. Do remember, any scholarship is a good news. So one thing that you need to do once you are finalized on the college of your choice is to write to them. Once again, write a professional email explaining your financial position, explaining your keenness on the program, and then hope for some relief from the college. The second thing I strongly encourage you to do is look at a couple of professors and write to them. Write to them requesting for either teaching assistantship or research assistantship. The latter, of course, you can only do if you have some research profile in your resume. But write to them. See to it that in that professional email you are introducing yourself, introducing the work you have done. Now bear in mind, it might not actually translate into anything fruitful, but you have achieved something more important. You have been able to introduce yourself to the professors. Don't wait till you go there to introduce yourself to the professors, because once you land up, you will find everyone, all the members of the batch, trying to introduce themselves. Now you need to stand out. So introducing yourself at an early stage will give you a huge advantage once you land up there. Now this was scenario number 1. Now let's look at scenario number 2. You are among those who has not yet got any admission. You're waiting. What can you do? Frankly, nothing. As I said, till you get the admission, you can't start any of the processes. Banks will not be open to evaluating your profile for education loan. Visa slots, of course, cannot be booked, so you just have to wait. This is where sometimes I see to it that when I am recommending colleges, I also take care to see that few colleges which tend to give results fast are included, because having one admit, even if it is not an admit in the college of your choice, provides you a big advantage. It facilitates your chance of blocking a visa slot. And this is what I am going to explain in scenario 3. What is scenario 3? Scenario 3 is a case where you applied in a couple of colleges. And guess what? In New Jersey Institute of Technology, NJIT, you get an admit for MS in Computer Science. Obviously, it's one of your preferred colleges because you applied for it. But it is not the preferred college. The preferred college is New York University, which is still evaluating your profile. Now you are sure about the fact that if I get NYU, I'll prefer that. But if I don't, then I'm going to fall back on NJIT. In this scenario, what should I do? Once you have got a college which you are okay going to, go ahead, apply for the I-20. Now, sometimes colleges will ask you for some deposit. It could be about $250, $500, and in very odd cases, even $2,000. If the deposit requirement is too high, then you can hold on. Don't rush. But if your deposit amount is $250 or $500, don't hesitate spending that. So let us say Shyam gets an admit in NJIT, he is waiting for NYU. NJIT needs $500 of deposit. My recommendation is very simple, pay that $500. Because once you pay that $500 and you send them the financial document, you are getting I-20. That I-20 can then be used to block a visa slot. Now you may ask, but I'm not interested in NJIT so much. My first preference is NYU. What happens if I get NYU later? I have already blocked the visa slot with NJIT. This is where understanding of the rule becomes very important. You need to understand the fact that just because you block the visa slot using NJIT does not mean you need to attend the visa interview with NJIT. Now, today, let us say we are in the month of March and you get a visa slot in the month of June. Between March and June, if you get admission in NYU, you can immediately get the I-20 and switch it for your visa interview. Which means you have been able to block the visa slot earlier using the admission you already have. But when it comes to the visa interview, you are attending it with the college of your preference. Now, of course, if you do not get NYU, you can still go ahead, attend the visa interview for NJIT. But there is one complication that you should be looking at. As I said earlier too, in NYU, the I-20 amount to be shown is $76,000. In NJIT, it's only $58,000. So what would I recommend? My recommendation is very simple. The financial document that you take for NJIT should be useful for NYU later because you're still waiting. So what you need to do is take the financial document for the higher of the two amounts. In this case, $76,000 and $58,000 basically means $76,000 for NYU is the higher amount. So take the financial document for $76,000. Send that to NJIT. Now, because $76,000 is more than 58, they will issue the I-20. Once you get the I-20, you block the visa slot. Don't block it too close because you want to give some time for NYU to revert. So give yourself some time, maybe in the month of June, which gives you a couple of months for NYU to revert. Now, let us say somewhere in the middle of April, NYU says, congratulations, we are offering you the position. Immediately use the same financial statement that you used for NJIT, send that to NYU. Because the financial statement is for $76,000, it will be acceptable by NYU, it will issue I-20. And once you get the I-20, take both these during your biometric day and switch from NJIT to NYU, which basically means on the day of your visa interview, which comes after your biometric date, you are attending the visa interview for NYU. The greatest advantage of this is you get sufficient time to fight for a visa slot. Had you not done that, let's see what happens. Let us say in March you have an admit from NJIT, but you say, no, I want to wait for NYU. Now what happens is you wait, you do nothing. NYU gives you a positive result, that is an admit in the mid of April. Then you will apply for I-20, which will take about 2 to 3 weeks. Now sometimes it takes more because that is a peak time. The universities are also busy, therefore they are much slower. You get, let us say, I-20 by May early, and then you start searching for the visa slot. Now you may not get it that easily. You might have to rely on agents, and agents are going to charge amount. You might not get it immediately, you might get it for July or early August, and that complicates. Why? Number one, your visa rejection rate is much higher as you go closer to the flying date. Number two, till you get the visa, you will probably hesitate blocking your flight ticket. Flight tickets become expensive as you go closer to the flying date. And third, accommodation might also not be very easily available. That is the reason visa slot getting is a very important task that you need to accelerate, which can be done using an I-20 of a college which you like but is not the most preferred. In this session, what I talked about is the step towards the visa slot. I will be coming out with videos where I'll talk about steps subsequent to this, but your responsibility is to understand that getting admission in the university is only one battle won. There are series of battles and complex battles at that, which ends the moment you step into the US through what is known as the immigration interview. Here again, a few students have been deported in the past, and it's expected that this deportation rate will increase. Therefore, series of battle to be won before you land up in the college and start your academic fight. Once again, make it a point to follow this channel so that you are up to date on various developments, and I will be seeing you in my next video. I wish you all the very best.